Well, Steve, we now enter the exciting world of the Handsonics. And I noticed that you have a special Handsonic here in front of us. And I'd like you to tell us the model number and what you could inform my audience about this amazing instrument.
Yeah, this is the Roland Handsonic 10. It's the HPD 10 is the actual model number. And what it really boils down to is in the process of also creating V drums for drummers, giving drummers that really good electronic, good feeling drum set where they can express themselves. We want to do the same thing for percussionists. And it was a really good, very interesting endeavor because there's obviously so many hand percussion instruments that are out there. And we had to find a layout that would work so you could use your hand drum playing technique and apply that to this electronic instrument and get those same type of sounds and same expressiveness. The beauty, I think, of the Handsonics is the fact that you can just use your hands and anybody can play. You don't have to learn how to hold drumsticks. You know, you just really just use your good old-fashioned analog hands, and you don't have to have any skill at all. You just hit the pads and it sounds great, and it's like any percussion instrument. It's just fun to play and it's easy to play. Now, did you play a role in the development of this particular instrument? Not this one in particular, but the predecessor of this, actually the top line one with the Handsonic 15.
Oh yeah.
I worked on that product, and again, that was, I think, one of the more challenging aspects of that product was to be able to find a common denominator as a layout, so you could use a lot of different hand drum technique and get those same kind of sounds, those same kind of nuances. The other thing too that was interesting is the fact that because we wanted to capture all the nuances for all the hand drums, besides having primary sounds, for example, like the conga drum, you know, there's the primary sounds, whether it's two drums or a slap or an open slap, things like the finger taps and little things like that. We had to sample those hand drums, and we had to sample all the little articulations you would do with your fingers or any little thing like that. We had to do all that sampling too, and it was quite a process to be able to put all those together to make, you know, an instrument that played well and played correctly. So what does this thing sound like? Well, I'll give you just a case for a conga drum. Around it, even the bass tone in the middle, and then we have our D beam, which is really special. It's unique to Roland, and what it does, it's actually an infrared beam, and when you cross that beam, it actually makes a sound. And what's really interesting about this, the D beam is actually has two beams, and just like your vision, you have two eyes, so you actually see depth. It's the same thing here. So besides crossing the beam, it also knows where I'm at in the D beam field. So if I'm up here, it's quieter, and if I go right next to the beam, it's louder. So there's our engineering at its best. It really is. It's very unique. And what's also interesting about that D beam is, besides triggering a sound, which is like for tablas, one of the things I can do with the D beam is, for example, like a talking drum, where you actually squeeze the drum, the pitch goes up. In this case, I have a couple of different ways of doing it. The engineers actually figure out a way to make the pitch bend, one of which is pressure. So I can play the pad, since this pad is what we call an FSR surface. It's a force sensing resistor. So besides a trigger, it also senses pressure. So if I play the talking drum and I push the middle pad, another way I can manipulate the pitch is through our unique D beam, because as I mentioned, it knows where I'm at in the field, D beam field, whether I'm close to it or far away from it. I can actually use it, instead of triggering a sound, I can actually use it to control a sound. For example, again with the talking drum. So there it was. You had this little centerpiece, and you controlled the sound there, and then with the D beam, you control the talking drum. Right, so you can either use the pressure from one of the pads, or I can use the D beam to control the sound. Now, I know that you play the full set of drums, both electric, acoustic. What could you do as a drummer here? Do you have a drum opportunity on this pad? You do. A variety of sounds. It's a wonderful instrument, not only to play by itself, but to put next to your drum set if you want to start playing some percussion. But if you just want to play good old-fashioned drums with it, drum set. Even the hi-hat, again, using pressure, what I'm doing is playing lightly on that pad, and if I hit it harder, I get the open hi-hat.
Boy, someone would think you had a full set of drums all set up, and here you are playing with two hands on an instrument called a Handsonic.
Mm-hmm.
What other...
we can do, there's just a variety of different sounds that you can play. Just to give you an example of a couple things too, even crazy things like sound effects. You go to this other one. You can do space sounds like that if you want to. Again, you play drums, you can do things, unique sounds, for example, like handbells. So again, if you're going to play something as unique as tabla, obviously a tabla is a very difficult instrument to play. And it takes people many, many years to master that instrument. But what's good though, and the sounds are also difficult to get if you play them. What's nice about something like a tabla drum, and that's what a lot of the professional studio musicians that I know like to use the Handsonic for, is because they don't know how to play tabla, but they can kind of cheat their way through, and it actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
so.
It actually does sound pretty good. Yeah.
So again, just a different variety of different sounds. What's another neat feature with the Handsonic is it has backing patterns in there, and it's great for learning different styles of music. A lot of different. Let me go here to again, just something as simple as a samba. A lot of very traditional. Those are obviously very traditional patterns, which is really nice because it's also a learning experience too. You can understand how the merengue sounds like in the instruments, but you can also do some contemporary things too. And then I can play along with it. Kids Talk Radio Dance Party.
There you are. So this is an instrument that kids can use in school just about at any grade level and have a good time.
Absolutely, like I said, it doesn't take a lot of skill, just using your hands to do it. You get some wonderful sounds, and it also is a great learning tool for learning all those different percussion instruments, because you can see pictures all day long, those things, but to be able to actually see them in there, actually hear a rhythm that incorporates them, but then to actually play the instrument themselves too.
And experience those sounds, yeah. Does this also have a metronome feature? Or is that something that someone would use a metronome and this device, or how does that work?
There is a built-in metronome, and it also has a thing that we call the rhythm coach. And what it will allow you to do is play along with the metronome, and it will then tell you if you're playing in time or not, which is really an interesting aspect for as far as rhythm training goes. Because you can have a metronome, again, you have the metronome, or you can have those style guides. There's different patterns playing that's more interesting to play along with than a metronome. But it also has what's called the rhythm coach, and what that will do is give you the ability to actually play, and it'll actually visually tell you if you're playing on the beat, if you're playing ahead of the beat or behind the beat. So again, it's a great rhythm training tool to be able to see, even just playing quarter notes or eighth notes, see how you're doing. Are you actually playing in time? Because you can play with a metronome, but it really doesn't mean you're playing in time. And this is actually, again, a visual gauge to see how you're doing against the metronome and if you're playing in time or not.
So this is a wonderful instrument for school.
Oh, it's a great instrument for school. It's wonderful for that.
Well, Steve, I want to thank you very much for this segment on the Handsonic.
My pleasure.